Welcome to the STARTALK modules on the curriculum development process for student programs. This is the second of two modules. Stage 2 has the following learning targets. Participants will be able to explain the interpersonal and presentational modes to those who will create and teach from the curriculum. They will be able to explain the connection between program can-do statements and performance assessment tasks. And finally, will be able to develop or support the development of Stage 2 performance assessment tasks. In Stage 1 of backward design, program can-do statements were created indicating what learners will be able to do by the end of the program. Now, in Stage 2, performance assessment tasks will be outlined. These tasks will align with the program can-do statements and will detail what will count as acceptable evidence. Finally, in Stage 3, we will look at the learning experiences. Stage 2 focuses entirely on creating formative assessments in the interpersonal and presentational modes that allow learners to show what they can do with what they know and allows learners to provide evidence that they are able to meet the learning goals identified in each program can-do statement. Let's consider performance assessment tasks for the interpersonal mode first. As a reminder, as you see here, the interpersonal mode is communication between two people. These interactions involve two-way exchanges. They are spontaneous and unpredictable. They involve following up to and reacting to what you may hear or read. They involve helping each other and you remain focused on the message. And finally, asking for clarification if communication fails or falters. The interpersonal program can-do statements were written in Stage 1. Developing the performance assessment tasks involves asking and answering the question that you see here. For example, I can ask and answer questions about regions I and others want to visit, then asking what task would show that learners truly understand and can apply new learning, showing their learning in the performance assessment task. When creating a performance assessment task, it can be easier to manage if 4 key steps are considered. Step 1, establishing the purpose. In fact, the purpose has already been created when the program can-do statement was written in Stage 1. A second step involves creating the context. That comes from the theme, which established the context that was described in the curriculum overview. The expectations, step 3, detail what learners will do. And finally, in step 4, there is a brief description of the actual product or performance that students will engage in to demonstrate their learning. Let's look at a specific task and break that down into its component parts. The program can-do statement, I can ask and answer questions about regions I and others want to visit, gives a clear purpose to the task. The context, which comes next as step 2, then details that students will be assigned to go to one of the 4 different regions and must find out who is going to the same region as them. So this is indicating when, why, and with whom the learners will communicate. Then, with the purpose and context in place, it is time to detail the expectations. This actually tells students what they will do during the task. Here, they will ask and answer questions to talk about where they are going and why they are interested in going there. Finally, there is a brief description in step 4 of the type of product or performance that will anchor the task. After completing the conversation, they will determine who is visiting the same destination. And it's easy to see that this performance assessment task actually is an embedded part of instruction, because you can imagine that once they have formed the common group that will travel together, that they would then go on and do something else since they were all going to the same region. With that with that program can-do statement in mind, looking at the actual task as it appears, you can see it here, and you're seeing that the purpose, the program can-do statement, is at the top, and then each part of this is in this written performance assessment task, which is the way it will appear in the curriculum template. You will not be breaking it down into component parts. So let's also look at the presentational mode of communication and what that might look like. Remember, this is the rehearsed communication. If you're looking at what is involved in this task, you're looking at one-way communication that is practiced, rehearsed, polished, edited with an awareness of audience. Students might use tools to improve their performance. It's organized, and it really is produced for an intended audience or purpose. The presentational program can-do statements were also written in stage 1. Developing the performance assessment task again involves asking and answering the same key question that you saw with the interpersonal mode. If you look at I can state which region I want to visit and why, then you are asking yourself what task would show that learners truly understand and can apply new learning. Then it is simply a matter of thinking through the steps, very quickly going through those. The purpose that was written in stage 1, I can describe things I see and do on my trip. The context, each student preparing a spoken report highlighting things to do and see in a specific region. The expectation, the selection of visuals to support what they will say, listening to each other, locating the region on a map, and finally completing a graphic organizer as they listen to the presentation of other students. Finally, with that performance, sharing them in small groups so that those graphic organizers can be completed. When you think about the performance that is involved in this presentational task, and you're looking at the way it is written together in that paragraph formatted, you're not breaking it out. Again, you're not breaking it out by steps. There is one additional sentence that you will see in the model curricula. After completing the task, students repeat the presentations for their parents at the end of the program. This is really just a reminder that the performances that are embedded during the program may be the very performance that could come at the end of the program when students are attempting to show their parents and other stakeholders what they have learned. When you're looking at the curriculum template, you will see what the example that appears here. A clear indication of the program can-do statement, a clear indication of the performance assessment task. This lineup will also drive the development of the lesson can-do statements in stage 3. Finally, as with all other sections of the template, there are review questions that both the program and the team leader will use to determine whether or not this section is actually going to measure and provide evidence of student learning. Do they give that evidence? Do the tasks relate to the theme? Do the tasks clearly address the mode of communication of the program can-do statement, and are the tasks appropriate for the age and developmental level of the learners? A couple of notes of caution again. You may wish to submit stage 2 to your team leader for feedback and approval before continuing to stage 3. Stage 3, as mentioned, builds upon the program can-do statements written in stage 1 and the performance assessment tasks written in stage 2. And a note of caution, if stages 1 and 2 have not been done correctly, it will be very difficult to write lesson can-do statements in stage 3. One other note of caution, and as a reminder, in stage 1, if a program wrote 6 program can-do statements, they would now have written 6 performance assessment tasks and will be writing over 30 lesson can-do statements in stage 3. It is at this point in the development of a curriculum that programs may realize that they just simply have written too many program can-do statements. Should that happen, simply work with your team leader to modify stage 1. You may at this point want to check your understanding of stage 2 before you begin writing by completing the self-check quiz that accompanies this video presentation. Should you feel that you need additional information, a reminder that the curriculum resource webpage has several examples as well as model curricula that you may choose to work with, to modify or adapt, or simply to look at for examples. This concludes stage 2 of the curriculum module process. And as before, we want to thank you for all that you do in your work with STARTALK.